Today, we're going to cover the pros and cons of crowdfunding. What is crowdfunding, why you should be using it, and why it can really change your business forever. So, Brooke, you're newer to crowdfunding than me. I actually looked today. My first project I launched was 8 years ago. The first time I heard of Kickstarter was 9 years ago, and the first time I helped with the Kickstarter was 9 years ago. So, you what, 3? When did you start at Gravel?
Yeah, so it'll be 3 years in October. So my first touch with any sort of crowdfunding platform was with Gravel. I'd heard about it on Shark Tank, but I didn't really know what it was and I didn't really understand it. But I'm about 2.5 years deep into crowdfunding and it is the way to go. I love so many things about it. At first, I was a little... I had to deal with all the customers, so people that weren't as familiar with crowdfunding would be so confused why their product wasn't shipping right away, because we're also used to Amazon 2-day shipping, you know. So that was a weird thing getting used to, was that it's a pre-selling platform. So that was my first weird thing with it. Having to deal with the customers, I'm like, yeah, I don't really get it either. But to them, I got it. But behind the scenes, that was my transition with like switching from a traditional business to a Kickstarter crowdfunding business.
Well, let's talk about what is crowdfunding. So essentially there's these websites like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, there's international ones like Makawake, there's pre-funding sites all over the world. Really what they are is you have an idea for a product, you want to launch that product, but you don't necessarily have $100,000 to create this product or this app or this board game or whatever it is. You go on these websites like Kickstarter, you pitch your idea to the group. Depending on if the group likes your idea or not, they can essentially pre-buy the product. They can pledge for your product, which is just they give you money for trade for a reward. And that reward can be everything from like a t-shirt with your logo on it to the actual product. With an app, you can do like lifetime memberships. Anyway, it's essentially this trade. They help you start your business for trade for some sort of like compensation later on. So that's what Brooke was talking about, is you're not shipping them right away, because this is just an idea, this conceptual thing that you're then turning into something else, like turning into a full business by getting the money from this crowd, which is crowdfunding.
I think something that's a common misconception, maybe it's just me, but my misconception was it has to be a physical product. It doesn't have to be a physical product. There are even Kickstarters for events that take place, let's say in Kansas City, but people from all over the country can believe in this project and crowdfund an event, or like Lance said, an app. It doesn't have to be a tangible thing. So no matter what kind of idea you have, you can crowdfund it on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. It's pretty rad.
And look, we can jump over to this Kickstarter screen real quick. So here's Kickstarter. There's our logo. You've likely seen it. Going down through this stuff, you can see there's everything from like one-piece electric hand drill, a bunch of board games, pots and pans. This is just the popular page currently. But really, like, there's so many things. Any business that you want to launch, you can likely launch crowdfunding. So let's jump into kind of the pros and cons of crowdfunding. So cons are easy to cover first. Main con you listed is the customers don't get the product right away. So the reason for that is, as I stated a second ago, you're just conceptualizing this idea. Maybe you have like manufacturing set up, but you haven't created these products before, right? So all of a sudden you have to go from like concept to finalizing manufacturing to actually manufacturing to shipping from your manufacturer to you. That can be anywhere from like a 2-month process to like a 6-month process or a year-long process if you're making them yourself. So that's the main con, and why people like don't love crowdfunding necessarily, is because we're in this Amazon world of buy now, buy now, buy now.
We're so spoiled too, and it really it sucks because everyone's so used to it. Even if they are familiar with Kickstarter and they say they're okay with waiting, they're not. If anything goes wrong, we've had month delay, but we've also just had a teeny tiny delay. Oh, this week instead of this week. And people still lose their minds because they're so used to, oh, I need some pens. I just primed them and they're on my door now. Even though it is really hard, even if people are familiar with it. But it's fine because I would say most people are accepting of a timeline. You can be really transparent about what you think the timeline will be. And if they're a seasoned Kickstarter backer, they'll know and they'll understand.
Totally. Yeah. And most of the people that you're selling to are on Kickstarter already, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like, it's not some foreign thing. You may get some people that don't fully understand, but that's maybe 1 or 2% of the people that back your project.
Right.
Most people that back your projects have either been looking at Kickstarter for a long time or have backed projects before. So that's con number 1. Hey friends, I just wanted to take a second and ask if you would please subscribe. We put a crazy amount of time and effort into these videos just in the hopes that you click that little subscribe button. It helps our channel out a ton. It's free for you. It's a win-win-win, and it allows us to keep making this content for you guys. So if you take a second to do that, it'd be really awesome. Obviously, you don't have to. It's not that big of a deal, but I would really love you if you did. So anyway, back to the content. Con number 2 is it can be expensive. So the problem is you're launching a campaign for a time period, right? So you typically set, like we do a campaign for 60 days usually. So what that is we click the launch button to show everybody this product. We can even show you, we can jump back over to the desktop version and I'll show you one of our projects that we did. Here is our blanket campaign. So you have some kind of main image that shows what the product is. This was a packable travel blanket. Then you go down a little bit further and you actually have like a video of some kind, showing like, okay, this is what the product is. This is how we conceptualized it. Here, who are the people that made it? Here's Chris and me. And then there's also a bunch of photos and videos and graphics showing like, what is this product? So that gives you a pretty good idea of like what a Kickstarter is. Obviously you have to get a lot of things within this to like, there's a lot of work within this to launch it. Like you need to create like these graphics, right? If you've never done anything like this, it can be pretty crazy. You don't have to go into as in depth as we have on here. But it helps. The more information, the better.
And the more information you put on there, the less questions you'll get.
Totally.
And that'll save you a lot of time. If you get one question that seems like more people will wonder, throw that up on your like FAQs. People want to know. I don't think you can really have too much information, especially if it's going to keep you from fielding all of these customer messages.
Totally. So this is a campaign that you build beforehand. You can spend months or years building this out, however long, until you feel like it's ready to launch. And then once you're ready to launch, you click the launch button, and this campaign is live for 60 days. So people can come down here. If you look over here to the right, here's what a pledge looks like. So pledge, $99 or more. You get one layover blanket. Get the layover travel blanket for $31 off the retail price of $130. So we currently sell this on our website for $130. By buying this now, they got something like a 10 or 15% discount on top of being able to help us back this project. The other thing, we launched this project for a total of 60 days. That 60 days, we raised $685,000. Obviously, that's significantly higher than most projects. I don't know what the actual average is, but I'm sure it's something around like $20,000 or $30,000 seems like what most projects do. But because of that, once the campaign ends, we get this money, moves forward. So that's, anyway, kind of diving a little bit deeper into a visual of what Kickstarter is. We also there was 5,003 backers for this project. So 5,003 people did some form of these pledges, which then equaled this amount of money that we got into our bank account. Now, the main downfall of this, right, is $685,000 is a lot of money. Kickstarter needs to make money. So Kickstarter takes 5%, and then they take 3 to 5% for card processing and stuff. So all of a sudden, $68,000 is gone. That's about 10% of your money is gone just going to card processing and giving it to Kickstarter. On top of that, because it's a 60-day campaign, the majority of these people, like, I don't know, maybe half the people backed it within the first week or so of the project. So because of that, 60 days later is when they actually process those credit cards. They don't process them on day one. They process them on day 60. So another 10% ish of those people, the cards fail, get denied, don't work. People reject them because they're like, what is this purchase that just went through?
Right,
There's all these
because at
things
that point,
like,
it's been 60 days where they're just like, what? I backed that? Which they could just go look at. But we do get a lot of messages like, did I buy something today? I didn't buy anything last night.
Totally.
And you have to explain, oh, our campaign started 60 days ago and you were backer number 24.
Totally.
You know?
And that's what really sucks about it, honestly. I understand to some extent why Kickstarter does that, why they don't charge it till the end, but I kind of wish they'd charge it as they go. Indiegogo actually charges as they go. So those are some of the main downfalls. Like, I guess concluding that little section there is Kickstarter can be way more expensive than just launching on a website, right? So all of a sudden, you're giving up 20% because of what Kickstarter is. You're giving up 5% for Kickstarter, 3 to 5% for card processing, and 5 to 10% for just credit card errors or rejections, right? A lot of those you can get back though. So that noted, but that's for another time. So you're giving up a lot of money versus like, I think we pay 2.5% for Shopify plus $30 a month. You know, right here, we're giving up $100,000, yet on Shopify, you're giving up, 1% would be you're giving up like $6,000, you know? It's very, very, very different, but this has an audience that will help you grow. All right, friends, quick break for an ad. The ad is not for some other company, the ad is for us. We actually built out this course on how to launch Kickstarter projects, how we raise millions of dollars on Kickstarter, and also on how to build products and develop products. We obviously have been doing that for 10 plus years. We've raised millions of dollars on Kickstarter. If you guys are interested in that, check out the link in the bio. It's makersacademy.co. And anyway, back to the programming. I guess now we can kind of jump into the pros. What are the pros of Kickstarter, of crowdfunding? Like, why should you even do this after we've talked about all the terrible things that Kickstarter does? Yeah,
I think that you nailed it already. Just, they have the name, they have the brand, it's reputable. If you just make a Shopify website and say, hi, you don't know me, but I'm gonna source this new product and here are pictures of it and here's my Shopify. To give me your money. Totally. Like, people can dispute it on their credit card if you're not a real, pre-seller, but Kickstarter gives that confidence that these people are vetted, they have to approve your project. Little things like that just make the customer feel more confident because they've used Kickstarter before and they know that Kickstarter will have the consumers back. As long as, the businesses too. Kickstarter, seems to take care of businesses and gives us a platform to hopefully go viral on their popular page or on their projects we like. They just have that sense of confidence, which I think is the biggest pro. Because we're a built brand. We've tried to also do a pre-sale on our website, and it was really tough. No one bit, really. And we had to learn the hard way that, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, actually that stamp of approval helps a lot. Totally. Yeah, and so that's one of the main pros of launching on Kickstarter versus launching on your own website, is they have this huge audience. Like, I don't know the exact numbers of how many people are coming per day, but if you check this out, there's all these different sections you can go into. Recommended for you based on projects you've seen in the past, projects we've loved. You can save projects. So projects we love is actual Kickstarter employees picking projects. There's trending, nearly funded. So if somebody's just about to get funded. And I know that people really love Kickstarter and they will use it as a search engine, kind of. They'll go on there and they'll look for something to back. My father-in-law is that way. He actually found gravel before we even launched. So that's very cool that they have all those tabs another misconception I think is that you always have to back the full amount for a product or for an event or for that perk. You can just back $1 because you think a project is cool, which I think is a really cool sense of community that Kickstarter brings in too. even if you just think something's cool because you saw it on the nearly funded page, maybe you don't want to back $20. Maybe you don't want to put in that money. But if you think it's cool, you can give them $1 and that puts them toward their goal. So
totally. Yeah. And really on this campaign specifically, we saw about half the pledges come from within Kickstarter. So half the pledges were us running ads, us using our own emails, us pushing, but literally like 50% of the pledges, so 2,500 people in this, came from within Kickstarter and didn't necessarily know us before. So it's pretty wild, actually, how much traffic Kickstarter can bring. So for me, that's probably number one on my list of like, what does Kickstarter do? Kickstarter drives its own traffic to your product, so you don't have to put a crazy amount of dollars into driving it to your website where people may or may not trust it there.
Another thing too, it's really hard to get press right now anywhere, just because journalists are getting hit right and left all the time. But there are a lot of journalists that will, and bloggers that will just look on Kickstarter and write an article about them. We've had a couple organic ones like that where we haven't even reached out, but they just found us on Kickstarter. So it also adds another layer of maybe someone out there is a journalist and they can write about you because they found you on Kickstarter.
Totally. Yeah. And even on your own website, if you're pre-selling and you pre-sell like $100,000, that's not showing anywhere. Right. And so it's like, oh, this company's pre-selling something, but who knows how well they're doing. But all of a sudden it's like, oh, this brand raised $500,000 for a toiletry bag. All of a sudden, that's a story. You know, you're bringing that PR value, that blog value, because they have something to actually write about. So that's pretty rad too. I would say the other main pro is on your website. You can try pre-selling, but typically you'll order the product in. Right. So all of a sudden you're spending like anywhere from $5,000 to $500,000 of your own money bringing in these products before you have any data on your customer. So you don't know like, is there even a customer for this? Do they like, what colors of this do they like? Say you're bringing in a shirt, right? It's like, oh, well, what size am I going to sell the most of? You know, like you have no data on that. So all of a sudden you're just guessing like, okay, I'm going to, 50% of the shirts I bring in are going to be larges because I think most people will be larges. It's like it's a complete guess versus when you pre-sell, all of a sudden you're getting all this data. You know how many larges to order. You know what colors people like. You know the issues and questions that people have. So when you create your ads to push people to your e-commerce store post Kickstarter, when you actually have products, all of a sudden you know like, oh, like with this blanket, are people going to like it more because it's warm or because it's comfortable? You know all that data because you've been talking to the people on Kickstarter about it. So it's pretty incredible. The other part that I touched on for a second was the dollar amount, right? It's like you can spend a stupid amount of money bringing in product, and then really next time that you want to launch another product, you have to like save up the money again. Like maybe you want 10 products. How are you going to have, like, you really have to have like a really tight business that's super, super profitable in order to save up enough money to launch a second product from the profits from the first product. Does that make sense? So what Kickstarter allows you to do is you can launch your first project there. You can launch your second project there. You can launch your third project there. And every year, like for Gravel, it's a huge cash infusion every year because all of a sudden we can pre-sell $500,000 worth or $1 million worth. And we have a few $100,000 left over to order other products, to do a bunch of other things. So,
and that data too, I think is just as valuable. Like you said, like I think Kickstarter, any crowdfunding platform is so good for a new business just because of that. It's so hard to start a business. You don't know what people are going to like or like what size. So I think both of those are huge points. And another thing too is, sure, they do take a chunk of your money, but you don't have to be a website developer. You don't have to make your own website or put money into that or hire somebody. It's a great launch pad to start your business based on one prototype, one product. I think you made some really, really good points. I'm sold. I'm going to go start a Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's incredible. So overall, that's like the basis of Kickstarter. Let us know down below in the comments if you have other questions about Kickstarter that we didn't cover here. We'd love to obviously answer your questions. We're here to help. So the other thing we wanted to cover, I guess, is do you want to chat more about GoFundMe? Is Kickstarter the same as GoFundMe? What are the correlations there?
So I have seen this a lot with some of our customers that find us organically through our website. They get a little confused when we say, hey, we're launching this new product on Kickstarter. And they're like, is that like GoFundMe? That's for accidents. That's for people that have their house broken into. And it's like, it's kind of the same in a sense that they're both called crowdfunding. A crowd comes together and funds this thing. Totally. But Kickstarter is the business version of that. But I've seen that a lot more than you would think, where people do get a little confused because they're both called crowdfunding, but businesses don't typically use GoFundMe. I think that's more of like a health or insurance, or we've all seen GoFundMe before, but I think that's a common misconception that if you're a business, go toward GoFundMe or Indiegogo, because that's, what you do. And it has all the tools for you. And there's a lot of good information Kickstarter has, and Kickstarter lays out how to plan your project and stuff. Whereas GoFundMe is a text box, and you can send it to your grandma and she can give you $50 towards your new prototype, but it's not like Kickstarter in the sense that it's a search engine, in my opinion.
I think the other main difference is GoFundMe, you're asking for help, I guess, like kind of, I'm in need, I'm asking for help. Kickstarter or Indiegogo or the business platforms are saying, hey, I have this cool idea. Do you also think it's a cool idea? It's not like a, please help me. It's a, this is awesome, right? And that's like the biggest difference. It's not a beg for help. So personally, I think there's very, very few businesses that shouldn't launch on Kickstarter. Almost every business should launch on Kickstarter. All right, so this is the Business in Real Life podcast. Thanks for joining. Our whole point is to show you what real life business is. We're not the Ty Lopez's. We're not in our garage. We're here showing you our real business, how we actually do things, and we'd love to interact with you. So leave a comment down below. We'll chat with you, and we launch these every Tuesday. So see you next Tuesday.
See ya.